ويسأل القوامة في أي حالة تكون للمرأة قوامة على الرجل. He's asking when does the woman have authority over the man? In the sense of قوامة, no, there is not. but there is, maybe you're mixing two concepts, isma and قوامة. Khadija at age 40 and the Prophet ﷺ at age 25. Who had the قوامة? Khadija was already a businesswoman. She was 40 years old. Do you think that the Prophet did not have the qiwama? He certainly did have the qiwama. But it does not mean, but the concept of qiwama itself, if we understand it right, it is not a concept, it is not a position of dictatorship. It is basically that this particular unit will have to have one head, otherwise it will break up, dissolve, it will blow up. Just like a ship, just like a country that needs one president, and a ship that needs one captain, and a plane that needs one pilot. So if Allah did not designate the husband, the man, as the qawwam, الرجال قوامون على النساء بما فضل الله. Authority, a position of authority. So if but it also has the concept of responsibility, but we cannot deny that it is about authority, and built into the concept is the concept of responsibility, because if you want to have authority, you will have to be responsible. So if Allah did not basically designate one of the two parties as the qawwam, then it will be constant, ongoing fight over the qiwama between the husband and the wife until Yawm ad-Din, until the end of life, of this life. It will be like up in the air. They will start to fight so that everyone wants to subdue the other party. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave it to the man, and at the same time Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the man to not abuse it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the man that this is not only about authority, it is also about responsibility. Do you know where qawwam comes from? Comes from qa'im, standing. What does it mean to be standing? It means that you are constantly looking after the best interest of your family. قائم على مصالح أهل البيت. قائم على خدمة أهل بيتك. قائم على رعاية أهل بيتك. You're constantly engaged in looking after or seeking the best interest, the welfare, the well-being of your household. But if I am responsible to be constantly looking after the best interest of the household, I should get some authority with this, right? With every obligation, you get the reciprocating right.
So is it conditioned, as you say, like what he's saying? What if he's not doing that and he's not capable of doing that? Is there, am I understanding right?
If he is not capable of doing this, let us say Ayyub alayhi salam. When Ayyub became sick for 18 years, we don't know exactly, but the riwayat said 18 years. 18 is not from the Prophet ﷺ, so it's not like a ma'soom report. But when Ayyub became sick for 18 years, did his wife take back the qiwama from him? She wouldn't have been the best wife that we hear about. She looked after him, she took care of him. She basically supported the family, and her husband was bedridden, severe handicap. Had a severe handicap for an extended period of time. Did she take the qiwama back from him? No, she did not. So this is something that has already been given to man by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it is not to be abused, meaning that you consult your wife with open-mindedly and open-heartedly consult your wife and look after. When you consult your wife, you're consulting your wife not only so that you could say that I consulted her, to basically figure out, where her heart is leaning, so that if at any cost you could fulfill her wishes, then you try to do this. Because the leader is the one who makes sure that all of his flock is happy, pleased, fulfilled before he looks after his own interest. The leader is the last one to jump from the ship, right? Is the last one. He makes sure that everyone is safe first before he jumps off the ship. That's the leader. And if this is how we understand leadership, then it will work. It will really work. But it does need some understanding and flexibility on the part of the wife and the husband. They need to be flexible.
Yes, Sheikh. His question was specific about a person who's not capable of making qawam. And he cannot make good decisions. He's not doing the right things. Does the wife just follow him regardless? Or is she have, if she knows there is a decision to be made the right way, she will take that decision for him?
Okay.
We understand qawam comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yes.
He's not capable.
He's not capable. Will the wife take back the qiwama from him? No, she will not take back the qiwama from him. She will basically infer to him, hint to him, tell him, instruct to him, advise him, exhort to him. Can the wife do all of this? تنصح, تعظ, حتى تأمره إذا كان بمعروف. The wife can do أمر بالمعروف والنهي عن المنكر. Yes, she can do أمر بالمعروف والنهي عن المنكر. كل هذا, all of this. However, at the end of the day, she will not make him feel like I'm taking it back from you, I'm taking qawama. That will destroy his psyche more. She will not have a husband anymore. She'll just so she should not make him feel like she's taking it back, but she will exhort, advise, counsel, ordain good, forbid bad. She will also seek out the help of others. She can seek out the help of his father, the help of his mother, the help of his this or his that, people that he would defer to or people that he would consider his senior, all of this. Does the concept of qiwama, does the concept of the ta'ah of the wife, ta'ah, obedience, is that an absolute concept or is it qualified? It's qualified, has many qualifications. So let us say that a man told his wife, I want you to stand up for 1 hour. Stand up for 1 hour. Does she need to listen to him? No, she doesn't. Guess what? Some people think that she has to listen to him. Why? Because standing up for 1 hour is not ma'asiyah. And the Prophet ﷺ said, لا طاعة لمخلوق في معصية الخالق. There is no ta'ah for any human being at the expense of disobeying God. And people do understand this. We Muslims know if the husband ordered his wife to do a ma'asiyah, she does not need to listen to him. Every Muslim here will know this, right? But it is not just this. The Prophet had another hadith in which he said, إِنَّمَا الطَّاعَةُ فِي الْمَعْرُوفِ. Ta'ah is only concerning that which is ma'ruf. Ma'ruf, as we said in the khutbah, is not limited to that which is good in the sense of the sharia, that which is known to be good. Urf, customarily known to be good. How do you determine this? Ask people who have sensibility. Ask wise people in the community. Is it reasonable for a husband just to say to his wife, I want you to stand up for 1 hour, face the wall. Stand up for 1 hour facing the wall. Is it reasonable? No. Because لابد أن يكون له مصلحة معتبرة في ذلك حتى الأب على ولده. Even the father with his son. Our scholars said that, or at least some of our scholars, Ibn Hajar al-Haytami rahimahullah, and others, they said that if a man commands his son, if a Shafi'i man commands his son to be a Shafi'i, when his son wants to be Hanafi, the son does not have to obey the father. Because the father has to make sense. If the father says to his son, this town has only Shafi'i scholars. If you become Hanafi, you will be lost. No one will teach you. Then the son has to obey his father, because now the father is making sense. But now the son is not the one who is going to determine who's making sense and who's not. The sense that we're talking about here is the common sense. You ask the people, the wise people in the community, does this make any sense? And if they tell you, no, it doesn't make any sense, then neither the wife nor the son or the daughter need to listen to a command that does not make any sense. And the command has to be purposeful. And the command has to be within the capacity of the one being commanded. And the command also has to have no harm for the one who's being commanded. So the father who commands his son to do something, the father should have a good purpose. Command should be sensible. It should not be a ma'asiyah. It should not harm the child or the wife. And it should be within their capacity. So the concept of qawama is for the man, but it should not be abused by the man. And if the man does not have the capacity to practice this qawama, then the wise wife will be able to steer him in the right direction without making him feel that he lost his qawama. She will not make him feel that he lost it, but she will still be able wisely to steer him in the right direction.
The Sheikh talked about forgiveness and compromising. To what end? What are the limitations? For example, if the wife is smoking hookah or something, or she doesn't perform Salat al-Fajr, so should he keep you like compromising or what?
If she does not pray Fajr or she smokes hookah, you will continue to tell her, you know, you ought to stop smoking, you will continue. Now, will you basically draw a line and say, that's it, I'm not taking any more, you're divorced? It depends on multiple factors. It depends, first of all, it depends on whether you have kids together or not. That's a big factor in the equation, right? Once you have kids together, you're not only looking after your own best interest, you're looking after the kids' best interest first, aren't you? Now, that does not mean that if you have kids together, divorce is a no-no. No, certainly sometimes divorce would still be warranted because the dysfunctional family is causing more harm to the kids than if their parents are separated. But you have to make a wise assessment, evaluation. Will my kids be better off if we separate than to be in this dysfunctional, negative, stressful environment all the time? Will it be better off? You have to be careful. You have to make the right decision and seek the consult of those who are wise, and istakhir, ask Allah to guide your heart, and so on. And you will have to make the decision on I'll tell you a hadith that is that may sound a little bit too strong for you. The concept of the hadith. But a man came to the Prophet ﷺ and said to him, "Inna imra'ati la taruddu yada lamis." My wife does not keep the hands of anyone away, or does not push the hands of anyone away. Do you know what that means? Okay, you could imagine. Then the Prophet ﷺ said to him, "Gharribha," you know, which means divorce her, you know. And then the man said, "Akhsha an tatba'aha nafsi." I fear that my soul will go out after her. He loved her so much, he could not imagine that he would divorce her despite her huge problem, you know. So some of the scholars said that it did not necessarily mean that she did al-fahisha, that she went all the way, but that she was sort of like not very proper. But it did not go all the way to the end. She was just not very proper. And some of the scholars said that it was all the way to the end. But then he said, after the Prophet told them divorce her, and he said, "Akhsha an tatba'aha nafsi," I feel that I'm afraid that I will basically melt down if I left her, or if she leaves me. And the Prophet ﷺ said to him, فَاسْتَمْتِعْ بِهَا إِذَن. Then just enjoy her, keep her. Why is this? You think, how could the Prophet tell him to keep her? You know, in fact, the three scholars, Abu Hanifa, Malik, and Shafi'i, not Ahmad, but Abu Hanifa, Malik, and Shafi'i, they said that in this hadith, it's reported by Abu Dawood, and it has a sound narration, chain of narration. They said that this hadith indicates that it is permissible to be married to someone who is, you know, like that. So they used this hadith to prove their point. Ahmad said no. But at any rate, what I wanted to say is, it is multifaceted. This relationship is so intricate and so complex that you will have the multifaceted. There are so many, like, you know, details that have to be factored in, and then also your spouse's best interest. Let us say that your spouse is a good woman, so sort of in general a good woman, and she just has a problem with hijab, for instance. She can't really wear hijab. She can't really put it on. She can't keep it on. She's otherwise a good woman. You want to say to yourself, what if I divorce her? Will she be better off? She is still your spouse, by the way. But if I divorce her, will that fix her? Will she be better off? Will my kids be better off? Well, you know, if the answer to these questions is no, then it is not just that I want to get rid of her. I want to make the best out of this circumstance now. How to make the best out of it? She does not pray Fajr. Continue to tell her, you know, to wake her up, and to wake her up gently. And maybe if you promised her that every time we wake up together and pray Fajr, we'll go out for a walk, maybe that would entice her. Maybe that will be like a reward. If you, sister, your husband is not waking up for Fajr, try to entice him into it. Try to tell him, every time you wake up for Fajr, I'll take you out for a walk. Or I'll buy you breakfast.
سؤال بعدين هذا نتكلم عن الزواج صح. Let us stick to the marriage questions more than you like talking about smoking, the ruling. The last question before we perform Salat al-Isha. I guess it is a complicated topic, and women are asking about it, like about marrying the second wife. So 3 questions about marrying the second wife. It seems a critical question. The first one is, what is your advice?
No, it will be too long of an answer, and then we need to pray Aisha.
So, shall we pray Aisha now?
Let's take a nicer, you know, smaller.
Okay, another question concerning the can a woman marries the second husband if she is divorced? Can she marry her second husband without the permission of her ولي؟ إذا طلقت المرأة هل تتزوج الزوج الثاني بدون إذن وليها؟
Well, okay. It depends. You know, if you're, according to the majority of scholars, no. Every woman does need a wali, because the Prophet ﷺ said, "La nikaha illa bi wali." There is no valid nikah or valid marriage without a guardian. And that is the position of the 3 Imams, Malik, Shafi'i, and Imam Ahmad, except that Malik فرق بين الشريفة والوضيعة. Malik had some distinction between women of high status and women who are not of high status, and so on. But if we overlook that distinction, then we will say that the majority did not allow this. And Imam Abu Hanifa did allow a woman to marry, whether she is previously married or not, to marry herself off to a suitable candidate. And then Imam Abu Hanifa, keep in mind, gave her wali the right to annulment of this marriage, fasakh al-nikah, annulment of this marriage, if she married herself off to someone who's not suitable. So he can take her, her wali can take her to the judge and say to the judge, she married herself off to someone who's really not suitable for her, and if the judge deems this to be right, then the judge will annul the marriage. So the Imam Abu Hanifa did give some recourse to the, or to the wali at the end of the day. Now here in America, if a woman got herself married and then she came to Sheikh Hamid, and Sheikh Hamid is Shafi'i, or I presume he is, and she told him that she got married the Hanafi way, Sheikh Hamid should not basically invalidate that marriage, because he does not have the jurisdiction to invalidate that marriage. He's not the Chief Justice in America. One Hanafi Imam married her without a wali. He is a Shafi'i Imam. We're not going to be invalidating everybody's sort of fatwa and nikahs and stuff. This would be crazy. In a Muslim society where you have judges and then Chief Justice, or judges and then second layer of judges, then they can do this stuff. They can work this stuff in a different way. But here in America, we will accept that marriage. But if a woman comes and asks me, and I believe in the position of the majority, I will tell her, no, you do not get married without the permission of the wali. When will the majority allow you to get married without the permission of the wali? If the wali عضل المرأة عن الزواج بكفئها. If the wali barred you from marrying someone who is truly suitable, then you take the wali to the judge. You go to the imam and tell him, my father is just being irrational. He does not want me to marry. And I had scenarios like this, where the father was completely irrational, completely illogical, where barring his daughter from marrying because he wants her to marry someone from their same exact tribe back home. And she grew up here all of her life, and the father, sometimes the father is in Australia. He never took care of her. He's just like, it's time to make somebody's life difficult, then you don't miss the opportunity. So that is how it works with some of us. Sometimes things don't make any sense. But then, فَإِنِ اسْتَجَرَ فَالسُّلْطَانُ وَلِيُّ مَنْ لَا وَلِيَّ لَهُ. And if they dispute, the woman and her wali dispute, then she does not do it on her own. She will go to an imam recognized in the community, authority recognized in the community, judges in Muslim countries, imams here, and then she presents her problem to them, and then they can sever the guardianship of the father if they find it appropriate. My advice to the imams is to never sever the guardianship of the father until they have a panel of 2 to 3 imams. I do not advise any imam to take it on themselves alone to sever the guardianship of a guardian, particularly a father. They bring in 1 or 2 other imams, and then if they agree that this father is truly being irrational, they can proceed and sever their guardianship. How should the youth approach marriage? There is not just one single way. It depends on the circumstances. Like your sister can point out a good sister for you, like a good suitor, if you have a sister. Your mother could see someone. You could see someone that you like, and then you could basically you could walk up to her and tell her, I want to come and talk to your dad. That's fine. In this case, she may tell you, no, don't come, don't go, don't talk to my dad, and you would have figured out that she doesn't want you, and you will save yourself the trip. Or she will say, yes, here is our address. So after you had observed her for some time, and you're comfortable and you asked about her, you could walk up to her and tell her, I'm interested in marrying you. I want to come and talk to your dad. Would that be? This person may be your coworker, so you may have been talking to each other for a couple of years. If she is your coworker, she could be your classmate, and you had talked to each other before. But you as a Muslim youth, you are not talking about sort of emotional stuff. You're not basically building. You're not building a bond with someone of the opposite gender until you legitimize that relationship by, ليس البر بأن تأتوا البيوت من ظهورها ولكن البر من اتقى وأتوا البيوت من أبوابها. Bir is not by going into homes from the backyard. But bir is by going into the home from the front door. Meaning, you be straightforward, go talk to her dad. Keep in mind that Islam gave you a three-phased transition into marriage. First, you will go and talk to her dad. You get engaged. Then, after the engagement, there is basically, she is not going to be accepting suitors, or suitors are being told to not, basically propose to her, and then you could go and talk to her at home, at her home, not necessarily in the presence of her family. Her family could leave you in the room for like some time to talk about various issues. If the door is open and there is no khalwa, there is no seclusion, and you are at her family's home, you could be talking, you could figure out, her interests, her line of thinking. She could figure you out, and so on. And then if you're comfortable, you transition into being contracted, and then you could get contracted. After you get contracted, she's your wife, or he is your husband. After you had gotten contracted, then you are wife and husband. But there is a promise. If you're getting contracted and deferring the consummation al-bina, there is a promise, an explicit promise or an implicit promise that you had given to her father, to her guardian, that there would be no consummation until you basically have the bina, the walima, and the bina, and so on. But in this time period, you could be doing halal dating. You're going out to dinner alone. She is your wife. She is your wife. You're contracted. You could be going out to dinner. You could even travel alone if you're good enough to control yourself. You could travel. She is your wife. He is your husband. But then there is that promise of no consummation until you have the walima. Now, if after all of this you're comfortable, so there is the notion that Islam just pushes you into marriage, like dips you into marriage, like it doesn't. Islam doesn't do this. If you're doing this as a cultural practice, don't blame it on Islam. Just don't blame all of your baggage, whether you're coming from Egypt or Pakistan or Morocco or Indonesia. Just don't throw all of your baggage on Islam. Islam is clear of this. It is your thing. It is not Islam. So Islam does not really, the sort of like arranged marriage. Arranged marriage is not a bad word to say arranged marriage. If your sister knows a good woman and she suggests that woman for you, that's to some extent an arranged marriage. But Islam did not ask you, well, next day, just consummate the marriage and then figure out if she prays or not afterwards, after you get married. All of this stuff, all of the details. I'll figure out if she, prays or not after we get married, all of those small details. No. Yeah. Anyway. But it's a three-phased process, very reasonable, sound process and decent process that Islam provides us in this regard.
يا ريت جزاك الله كل خير إن شاء الله. يقول الله سبحانه وتعالى وجعلنا إن من أزواجكم وأولادكم عدوا لكم كيف يكونوا أعداء. Allah said that some of your children and wives are enemies to you. How you interpret this ayah, عدوا لكم?
They distract you from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They distract you from the pleasure of Allah, from pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your wife who tells you, you're not making enough money, you gotta make a little bit more money, and she knows that this is basically it for you. Otherwise you will start to be crooked and you'll start to steal. And she keeps on telling you, you're not making enough money, go make more money. She is an enemy, and the husband could be an enemy for his wife as well. Keep in mind. The husband also who gets his wife into trouble. I know husbands who push their wives into riba, who force their wives to borrow with interest for them. Is this husband an enemy? Yes, this husband is an enemy. So anyone who diverts you from seeking the pleasure of Allah or befalls you into disobedience of Allah is an enemy.
Okay, a question about al-khulu'. هل الخلع من قبل الزوجة يكون صحيحا إذا؟
And I just wanted to say one thing about our culture. Our culture has a lot of Islam embedded in our culture. So we're not throwing the baby with the bath water. When we talk about our culture, we're only talking about the bad elements within our culture. Because sometimes also some people throw the baby with the bath water, and then everything that is part of our culture gets thrown away. Well, that's not correct. We have to be discerning as Muslims to figure out the difference between that which is good in our culture and came from Islam and that which is bad. Discerning. مميزون. عقلاء مميزون. Don't take it all and don't reject it just because it's culture, because it may have Islam embedded in it. You know how sometimes in some of our cultures, the kids kiss their parents' hands, after the prayer and so on. They kiss their parents' hands. You don't need to give this up. This actually has roots in Islam. This is a manifestation, although it's not an obligation, it's a manifestation of birr. So you don't need to give up that culture, but you need to give up the parts of the culture that are foreign to Islam or counter to Islam.
إن شاء الله. هل يجوز الخلع إذا لم يتم إشعار الزوج؟ هل يجب أن يعلم الزوج من قبل
Is khul'a permissible without letting the husband know? No, there will be no khul'a without letting the husband know. There could be تطليق. القاضي يطلق عليه. There could be تطليق, basically forced divorce by the court. Forced divorce by the court. If the court seeks if the court sends a notice and another notice and a third notice to the husband to come before the court so that they could discuss with the husband the claim of the wife or the case that the wife presented to the court, and the husband refused to show up, the qadi does have the power to enforce divorce on the husband even in his absence. But khul' by definition means that the husband agreed to separation, to termination of the marriage in exchange for a compensation. That compensation, in my belief, the stronger position is that it is limited to the dowry. She gives him back the dowry. Some of the scholars said it could be more, but I believe it is limited to the dowry because the Prophet ﷺ said, خُذْ حَدِيقَتَكَ وَطَلِّقْهَا تَطْلِيقًا. Fatima, the wife of Thabit ibn Qais, when she came and complained, then she said to the Prophet ﷺ, and you see how Islam gave the woman so much freedom, so much power. She came and said to the Prophet ﷺ, I don't like Thabit. Thabit was one of the greatest Sahaba. حامل لواء رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, شاعر رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, one of the greatest and best Sahaba. She said, I don't like him. I just don't like how he looks. She said that in some of the reports, that I just don't like how he looks. That's it. إني لا أعيب على ثابت في خلق ولا دين. I don't have any problem. I cannot critique his religiosity or his morality whatsoever. Spotless religiosity, spotless morality, and yet the woman did not feel that he is good for her. She just didn't like him, didn't like how he looked. So she came and asked the Prophet ﷺ, you know, I just can't, ولكني أكره الكفر في الإسلام. I hate to be ungrateful after I became Muslim. And the Prophet said to Thabit, خذ حديقتك وطلقها تطليقا. Take back your dowry, take back your garden or orchard, and divorce her. He commanded him to divorce her. So the command is to just take back the dowry, because if you do not make this a condition of khula, and any woman can take a dowry, you know, can marry some man and take his dowry and then go to the court and get a khula and move on and marry another one, it'll be a good business. So Islam forced her to give the dowry back. So that's bad women, and I'm not saying that good women would do this, but there are bad women just like there are bad men. So that bad women do not abuse the institution of the family, which is an important institution to protect.